Good morning, Cyprus. Okay, so today we're going to have a little look at how we can add or prepare to add some direct and indirect speech to our reports. So yesterday you came up with hopefully a newspaper name, headline, byline, and an opening paragraph, okay, that contains the answers to the 5 Ws. We're then going to go on to expand those things, and part of that, a way that we're going to add some detail, is by using speech, okay, to report what some people who know about the story have said about it. So, how do we show speech? Okay, we've got direct and indirect speech. And we're going to look at the difference between those two today. But when we're using direct speech, okay, that is when we're going to be saying exactly, okay, and that's really important, exactly what someone says. It is exactly word for word what they say, okay, and we need to use inverted commas, okay, speech marks, inverted commas to do that. Indirect speech, okay, is where we use what someone says, but it doesn't have to be word for word. So it doesn't have to be exactly what they say. It just gives us an idea of what they've spoken about. And you don't use inverted commas for that. So let's have a look at some examples of that. So direct speech is a sentence where the exact words are spoken, okay, and they're within speech marks or inverted commas. So you'll never guess what I've just seen, said Sam excitedly. So this is exactly what Sam had said, okay. This is what Louise had said, and then we have got the punctuation here, okay, so we've got inverted commas each side of exactly what was said, and we always start our speech with a capital letter, okay, so we've got, let's make a list of what we need. So inverted commas around the speech. Okay, we've got a capital letter to start, and we've got punctuation to end. Now, it's important to remember that when we're looking at speech, okay, at the end of our sentences where the speech is, if we've got exclamation marks, question marks, okay, they stay in. If it was going to be a full stop at the end of that sentence, but we're going on to say who has said this, then we need to make sure that that is a comma instead of a full stop to split the spoken word, so exactly what was spoken and what was said, with who had said it. We then go on to have a look at indirect speech. Okay, so indirect speech is when we generalize and we make sure that someone, what they've said comes across, but we might not say it exactly word for word. If they give a really long answer, we might just summarize and give an overview, an idea of what they're saying. So linked to your guided reading today, where you're having to summarize, that's what you're going to need to do. Newspaper reports haven't got enough space, enough time to record every single word, so they need to summarize some of those things sometimes, and that's where we use indirect speech. And because it's not exactly what they said, okay, it's not exactly what they said, we don't have to use inverted commas. So let's have a look in here. What I'd like you to have a look at is where should the punctuation be on here. Okay, I'd like you to pause it. So these are direct speech, so they all need inverted commas. I'd like you to pause here, write out the sentences, okay, where should the punctuation be? Okay, so let's have a look at those together. So I want sweets, shouted the little girl. So within this sentence, okay, what is it that she's actually saying? This is what she's saying, isn't it? So we need, okay, inverted commas here, and then to close it afterwards. The punctuation's already in there, okay, and we've already got a capital letter at the start. So that one is fine, we're happy with that. So, as I was walking away, my friend called, "Don't forget your bag." So, the speech, what is being said? Okay, this is what she's saying, isn't it? Okay, so the friend called, we've got inverted commas here. Okay, we need inverted commas at the end. Remember, they get outside the punctuation, which is already there. We've already got a capital letter, but what we do need is a comma, okay, to split that, so that we then know that the speech is starting. Okay, so we use a comma in there, so make sure that's in there, that's really important. And then, "Please can you help me with my maths work?" asked Reuben quietly. Okay, again, the capital letter's done for us, the punctuation at the end is done for us. Okay, so we should see our inverted commas there. Hopefully you had a really good go at that. Now the next thing is looking at direct or indirect speech. So what I'd like you to do is remember which of these, okay, is direct or indirect. Remember, direct is where we need to use inverted commas, it says exactly what they're saying, and indirect is where they're just summarizing, okay? So they might not say it word for word, it might not be exactly how he said it or they said it. So have a little look. You could just put a D or an I in those if you want. So have a look there. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, there are your answers for those. So double check those. Make sure you've got those with you there. And the next thing, okay, I've got some direct speech here. I know it's direct speech because I've got inverted commas to show exactly what we said. Now, what I want to think about is how could I turn that into indirect speech? So not exactly what it said, but if I wanted to report it without saying that, I might use the sentence. So if we were late, we might miss the show, stated my sister anxiously. I might put my sister was anxious as she thought we might miss the show if we were late. Okay. So there, I'm taking what she said. Okay, I'm putting it across, but it's not word for word. Okay, and I'm just reporting what she had told me. So she might say, my sister told me that she was anxious as she thought we might miss the show if we were late. Okay, so my sister told me she was anxious, she thought we might miss the show if we were late. So she wouldn't say, okay, she didn't say, did she, "I'm anxious," but we could tell that from how she was saying it. So we've summarised it, we've put it in. We don't need inverted commas because it's not exactly what she said, but we've reported the same information, exactly how she said it, and then we've summarised it in indirect speech. So, could you have a go at putting these ones into, okay, have a go at this one. We've done this one together. Have a go. So at Mum's reply. So Mum said, "Don't worry." My mum said, "Don't worry, there's plenty of time to get there." Okay, we don't need those inverted commas there. So they can go. My mum said, "Don't worry, there's plenty of time to get there." So have a go. Can you put that into indirect speech? What I want you to do today is to think about the questions that you asked in your plan. So in your plan, you looked at creating, didn't you? You looked at the 5 W's headline, and then you thought about 3 people, 2 or 3 people that you could ask some questions, interview to get some information to go into your report. So I want you to think about their responses, okay? And I want you to see if you could write some speech, direct or indirect, that you could use in your newspaper report. Okay, so these are bits that you could just pick up and put into your newspaper report when we continue to write it tomorrow. So these are the questions I asked him, and I want to think about how I'm going to report the responses. You'll probably have the responses written out. How are you going to report those? Okay, so I might put, although It is unbelievable that a 12-year-old tricked his way into space, comma, Darren from Porsche showroom told me that he had never a child who was more so okay. Although it is unbelievable that a 12-year-old tricked his way into space, Darren from the Porsche showroom told me that he had never seen a child who was more convincing. So that might not be exactly what Darren said, but we've used indirect speech to report that, okay? So let's have a think then about how we could use some direct speech, okay? So capitals, I have never been so convinced. It was as if I was talking 30-year-old man. Reported Darren. Okay, so again, I could pick this up and put this into my newspaper report. So I've got my two options, haven't I? Okay, and you're going to create some indirect and direct speech from some of the people that you're going to speak to. So you might do that from mum or from dad. It might be from the Porsche salesman. It might be from Miss Sass, the teacher. Okay, so could you create some direct and indirect speech for me today? Okay, to go into your newspaper report, and I look forward to seeing that later.